All right, I think we are live. So welcome everyone to their Maran Motoring live stream here on the Maran Motoring YouTube channel. Hope you're all having a great week here so far. Thanks for joining in here for the midweek live stream. So like all these usual Wednesday ones, we're going to go for 1 hour. I'll give priority answering to anyone who does a super chat or a super thanks, as well as anyone who's a member there with the green usernames. They always get that priority answering. If you'd also like that, there's a link in the description. And yeah, so I also want to say that we are under severe thunderstorm warnings, flash flood warnings, bunch of stuff. I actually didn't have power until about 5 to 10 minutes ago. So thankfully it came on here at the last minute, but just be warned, if this randomly cuts out, that's because I lost power and I probably won't be coming back on tonight. So just be aware of that here. But yeah, so it's been a little bit of a crazy last 45 minutes. I was like, literally before the electricity came on, I was like writing a note to Beth to be like, I'm going out driving to try and find service, because I don't even have service half the time around here because AT&T is crap around here. So I was literally gonna have to get in the car and like drive to a place where I could have service so that I could like let you guys know I wasn't coming on and cancel the live stream. So bit chaotic here, but happy to be here. Fingers crossed we keep the lights on here for at least the next hour. But I also want to thank Lanceloth for gifting 5 memberships here right off the bat. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much for your generosity here. Happy to see, I think 1 or 2 familiar faces, as well as some new ones. They're able to get those memberships, and hopefully they can join in here on the lives here tonight or on Sunday. And so I see we also have Brian, Danny, Theodore, and Lanceloth, of course, Nicholas, and Michelle, Trunk Car Guy, Raphael, and Stratus Edge, and Mystical Gamer that all stopped by. So yeah, thanks so much for stopping by, everyone. And wait till a few more people come in, and then I'll repeat my announcement about possibly having power go out here at any moment. But let me see. Brian says, good evening, everyone. My spot this week was a yellow Corvette. Very nice. And Danny says, hello, went to the Lost River Caverns in PA. On my way up there, I saw a bright blue 4th gen RAV4 towing a small camper trailer, a 1st gen Escape hybrid on Colorado tags, and a 1st gen Crosstrek hybrid. That's pretty rare. And yeah, nice spots. My unfortunate spot here was tonight we live near a body shop, and I drove past and someone smashed up the front end of their Lexus SC430, which is very sad to see. A classic, JDM vehicle like that banged up a little bit, but hopefully it'll be all fixed up and be all good. And I see Theodore says, happy Wednesday. Hope everyone's having a good day here. And Lancelot says, good evening. Sadly, no spots so far this week. That's all right. And let me see. Nicholas says hi as well. And Danny says the Escape was in gray and the Crosstrek was in a sort of lime green. Nice. Yeah, I think that lime green was very popular for the hybrid versions, because I feel like every time I see one of those hybrids, they're almost always that lime green color. Vishal says, hello, my spots are a CB8 Accord Coupe and a 1st gen Escape hybrid. Nice. And he also said, I also watched the POV vid posted today. Nice format. Only suggestion is maybe do the drive with the windows up to get an idea of NVH and how the car sounds inside, or a portion windows down, windows up. Okay, yeah, I appreciate the feedback there. And yeah, thank you to everyone that watched that and left supportive comments there. I don't know if it's just because it's the first one or not, but that video is doing better than I expected it to do so far. So thank you for that. That is, if those videos can do well, that'll really be a big help, because there's no editing involved. And it's, a nice, decent length video that actually will pay decently with ads and stuff. So it'd be really great if I could add that in as a companion video alongside all the reviews. So thank you all so much for your support of that. And yeah, so the thinking behind those was I wanted to capture the ambient noises there. I know there's a little bit of wind noise occasionally at times. I can either, because I'm using one of my older action cams for that, I can either upgrade to one of the newer ones that does better noise cancellation, or possibly run a mic or something. But to me, again, if there's a lot of people that just want to have silence with the windows up, I can do that. And I think once we get to colder temperatures where there isn't really any ambient noise, then I will have the windows up for those, obviously through the winter time and stuff. But I thought capturing, since my take on POV is a relaxing kind of sleep aid kind of drive, stress relief kind of drive kind of thing. I thought the ambient noises were kind of important to include, hearing the birds chirping and all that as I'm driving along there. But if people just want to focus on the car and not so much the full experience, I'm totally happy to drive with the windows up. And again, it'll be that way anyway once it gets colder. But I kind of want to try, at least, I've already filmed a few of these now, so you'll see them come out alongside the reviews here for the next few weeks. I have had the windows down for all of them. And like, for example, I'll have a Miata in a couple of weeks. That one I'll be doing with the roof down and kind of really, getting a lot of ambient noise in that one. But yeah, for the NVH, that's something that certainly I can, highlight there at some points. And yeah, even if I do portion with windows up, windows down, I just want it to be serene. So messing with stuff was also something I was trying to avoid, not really messing with window switches beyond that first press and not playing around with the screens or doing anything else, just literally driving. Because again, I think I'm not labeling them as ASMR because I know YouTube gets a little weird with that. But kind of trying to just have it be, again, like background, again, stuff just to put on before bed, things like that, just to actually put people to sleep, because I am doing the speed limit. And that was the other thing was, me filming myself speeding. It's just something I never felt comfortable doing, where I'm clearly showing my speed and my surroundings. But, if I, in those videos, I'm just doing the speed limit, there's no worries there, obviously. But that's why I was like, well, the only way I can do the speed limit and have people not be annoyed by it is if I label this as it's something that's supposed to be relaxing and something. And I don't know about you guys, but I love summer evening drives just personally. So getting to do that as a video and also just sharing that experience of a beautiful sunset with you guys, which you'll see in the next few videos, had some beautiful sunsets I'll be driving into, and a bunch of cool stuff like that I just thought was, with how chaotic and crazy the world is these days, I think it's also kind of a nice thing. YouTube is so stimulating, social media is so stimulating, and obviously there are, niches of YouTube, again, the ASMR stuff and other things that can kind of, be relaxation stuff. But I thought that what was kind of lacking in the car niche, especially, was relaxing content and stuff that does kind of just, to some people it's probably extremely boring, but I think for people who, just need something relaxing these days, it's not super stimulating and me talking a million miles an hour, I just thought that was kind of like a nice differentiator that, again, I didn't really see out there on YouTube very much. So yeah, that's kind of my thinking behind that. I'm glad, again, you guys really appreciate it. I'll be keeping an eye, though, on the feedback. So as these videos continue to roll out here, I'll have another one here later this week, and some more I'll be doing, again, like 2 a week probably, to go along with the 2 car reviews each week. So yeah, I'll be keeping an eye on the feedback to see if people continue to request windows up. More than happy to do that. Also in the summer here, it also, you will hear NVH, but if I'm driving on a summer night and I have the air conditioning turned off or on a low setting, it might not be enough too. So there's that whole kind of thing to try and play around with. So I'll dial it in here as we go along and see what everyone wants and what I'm able to do, and kind of balance it out. And hopefully it'll be a good, but I'm excited for that. And I'm glad that some of you guys are as well. Anyway, moving on here. So I see Lancewell enjoyed it as well. I'm glad you did. Thanks so much for watching again. And let me see. Mystical is asking what's up. So since we have a decent amount of people here now, I will repeat what I said earlier, that we are under a severe thunderstorm warning, a flash flood warning, all kinds of other stuff. We just had power go out. It didn't come back on until like 5 minutes before I started this stream. So if power goes out, if this randomly cuts off, you'll know why, and I probably won't be back on tonight. So just another PSA there for everyone that missed it whenever I first came on. But oh, there's some lightning there. You might have seen in the window. But anyway, so, and Zachary says, haircut. Yes, finally got around to getting a haircut as well. It was getting pretty wild. And so happy to be taking care of myself here. And Daniel says, greetings from the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia. That's awesome. I hope you're enjoying your time there. And yeah, beautiful views. I always love it there. Wow, that was rattling the windows, that thunder. You guys experiencing the ambient noises of a thunderstorm here. Extra little bonus here for the live stream tonight. And Mr. 705, thanks for stopping by. Dylan says, hello, hope things are well. I'm starting a new job soon, hoping that I'll be able to start modifying my car again. Wheels and tint ain't enough right now. Well, that's awesome. And congrats on the new job. That's honestly a very good accomplishment on its own, because I know several people that are unemployed trying to get jobs right now. It seems like it's a pretty tough job market right now. And so the fact you're able to land a job is awesome. Congrats on that. And I hope that, yeah, you're able to do more fun stuff to your car here soon. And Vishal says, we had a nasty storm yesterday. Got woken up by a loud crash of thunder before my alarm, and my commute to work was in pouring rain. Even cut power for a minute too. Good day. Good start to my day. Yeah, we've had a lot of intense thunderstorms. I think this is, I'm 35 now, and I think this is the most intense summer storm season I ever can remember. It's just bizarre with these like rain bombs that we're having. Of just like, today, 3 times already today, it was like nice sunny skies, and then boom, instantly like super dark cloud comes in, dumps rain, like floods the street. A couple inches of flooding, nothing crazy, but floods the street, clears up, half an hour later, and it's done. And then it rolled it through again like 3 hours later, same deal, and it was done. And then we had another one here around dinner time, and now we have another one here. It's just like these constant, like off and on, but it's so intense. I've never seen rain fall faster than I think I've seen it this year. It's kind of wild. Just a really out of the ordinary year, I guess. We'll see, if it continues or if this is just July or what. But yeah, it's been pretty crazy here. More power outages than usual, all kinds of stuff. And let me see here. So, but I'm glad that you're okay, Vishal, and hope that everything else is good. So, let me see. Raphael says, my spots this week were an Eagle Talon and a Mitsubishi Starion. Nice. Very good spots there. Yeah, I haven't seen a Talon in a long time. The Starion is another one that's really rare. So very nice spots there. And Still Buster says, I'm debating on getting a Grand Highlander. I'm considering the normal hybrid on the limited trim. And a good option, or should I do a different engine or trim combo or even a different SUV entirely? I love the Grand Highlander. It's really well done. My only sticking point with Grand Highlander is crash test ratings aren't fantastic for it. And that's the only bad thing I can say about it. If you don't care about that, then I think it's probably the best choice, honestly, in my opinion. Other than that, it's just so well executed, so much space. It's a Toyota. You don't have to worry about reliability. It's really, really good. Now, as far as normal hybrid with the limited trim, I think that's fine. It comes down to how much power you want or need and how often you're going to be loading it up. Because if you are jam packed with, 7 or 8 people all the time, or a ton of luggage, or both, the hybrid has the potential to maybe feel a little bit weaker, than the turbocharged options there. So that's, the only thing I can say as far as that goes. But, Hybrid Max is fun, but certainly not needed. I think the regular one, honestly, is fine. The hybridization is really nice to have, obviously. Yeah, I think there's lots of good options, outside of the Grand Highlander. I think if it's kind of hard because Mazda doesn't offer a regular hybrid for CX-90, but I really love CX-90. That is the other favorite in the segment that also, I believe got really good marks. Mazda is always like top notch as far as safety stuff, but the inline 6 in that is amazing, or the plug-in hybrid. It gives you 33 miles of actual electric range, and you have, the solid Mazda, 4-cylinder there. So that's the only other one that if I were shopping in that segment, I'd probably be driving a CX-90 myself. But, again, you have less space than Grand Highlander. So it just comes down to, again, what exactly, your priorities are with it. But yeah, if you have the money, Hybrid Max is great because you don't get quite as good fuel economy as the regular hybrid, but you get a bunch of power and some of that hybridization and efficiency there. And that thing is just so much fun. It's so responsive. It's so good to drive. So hopefully that helps you a little bit. I know I was all over the place with the advice, but I don't think there's really a bad Grand Highlander, honestly. I would just say, though, make sure you take it for a test drive. And if you have a family you plan on hauling around in it, try and bring everyone along to, see how it feels loaded up. And if power seems fine for you with a regular hybrid, then I think you're good. I was really impressed with it, honestly, on my drive. It was completely fine, I'd say, but that was with me and a co-driver. That was it, in an empty car. So that's the only thing I'd add. But, like I said, they're all great choices either way. But I also do like how you get, a good bit of punch there with the CX-90 with either plug-in hybrid or the inline six. And I see also Rishi says that they have the Grand Highlander hybrid limited. We have no regrets. Don't expect the best power, but it's not painfully slow. I think the more you drive, the higher the MPG gets. We're at 36. That's awesome. He says we also consider the CX-90 a Lexus TX and a Honda Pilot. Well, thank you for giving your feedback as well, Rishi, and it's so good to hear actual buyer opinions. And I don't know about you guys, but I see Grand Highlanders everywhere. There are currently 3 in my neighborhood. They're all black. And I think everyone just went for the regular versions. I don't think anyone got a hybrid or anything, but everyone seems to really enjoy theirs. And it's very popular around here already. And let me see. Kevin, thanks for stopping by as well. And Raphael says, I think both, some windows up, some windows down. Okay. So sounds like that's kind of the consensus here early on. I'll keep an eye on it and see. And maybe that'll even be a poll I can do just for, the entire channel wide for people who can't make the live and see what they think as well. But I can totally, put the windows up or down once or twice, do a little bit of both. That's great. And let me see here. Where were we? So Vishal says, that is fair. I did like the outside noises too. I think you should split and do a portion windows up, windows down. Okay, yeah, I think that's sounds like that is going to be the way I'll do them. So just so you guys know, like the next 3, I will not be doing that. Or I've already filmed them with windows down, so can't change it for those. But for the ones I film going forward, I will maybe just incorporate that in advance here and just see if people enjoy that. And thank you again for the feedback there. That's great. I'm looking to improve these any way that I can. And Danny says, still in the search for a first car. My mom didn't get her first car until her freshman year of college. Also, weird fact about the early 2000s Ranger, it had a trim called the Edge, I think, of the Maverick Lobo as a successor to that. Yeah. I remember the Edge kind of name being used there briefly. And yeah, I mean, there was also, because they also did like a Ranger Splash, I think, which they tried to bring back for the Ranger a year or two ago too, back in the 90s, that they, just did like a paint and sticker package here, I think a year or two ago too. And yeah, I mean, it's the Rangers, those little Rangers were great little trucks. And yeah, Maverick, I'd say, is a nice kind of, replacement for that. But I would love to still see an actual small, real truck, that's, just still body on frame and all that. I think it would be nice to see. But I don't know, maybe Ford or others just don't think they can pull it off for some reason. I don't know. Theodore says it was a really good video. I'm glad you liked it as well, Theodore. And Lancelot says he enjoyed the full experience of, I guess, windows down. I appreciate that, Lancelot. Let me see. Great to see Still Buster was able to get some good feedback there. And Mars says, I'm tracking the weather for you, buddy. I appreciate that. He says, you're in a very moist air mass and a few short waves are triggering these storms. Awesome. Well, thanks for the analysis there. And sounds like you know more than I do. I've never heard the term moist air mass before tonight. So thank you for that. Let me see. Lancelot says, I need to get a haircut myself. I might get them all cut though. Haven't decided. But yeah. And let me see. Raphael says, I got the storms in Cleveland earlier. Now they've moved on to you. Hope your power stays on. Thank you. It seems like it's all this stuff just keeps on passing across the country here. Wheatman says, good evening, Matt. Please ride out the storm and stay safe. Appreciate it. Hope all you guys stay safe as well if you happen to be in a storm area here. It seems like just about everyone's getting hit with something these days. I know there was the bad flooding in New York and New York City and everywhere, New Jersey. Obviously the stuff in Texas, last week, and all kinds of craziness here. Let me see. Danny says, I don't know if you remember this, but the blizzard of 96 was bad. My dad was starting his freshman year of college. He was shoveling snow up to his waist. Crazy. I don't think we had a blizzard here in Pittsburgh in 96. We had one in 93. And I vaguely remember just like giant amounts of snow because I was 3 years old. But that was the last bad one. There was also like Snowmageddon, I think they called it in like 2011 or 2012. But those are really the only two crazy ones that I remember, I think, that we had in Pittsburgh here. And Michelle says, watch your take one review. I totally relate to the delay and acceleration you were talking about. My Jetta is the same way. I'm used to it, but still weird sometimes. Yeah, it is strange. And it's also strange how, like, I complained about this with Golf R, and people are like, oh, you just need to drive it in sport mode, blah, blah, blah. And like saying I was doing something wrong. And then it's like, well, Tiguan's supposed to be driven in normal mode, and it's still, not great. And it really is just like a Volkswagen Group thing still. I think they've kind of fixed it in GTI. I'll be posting my GTI review tomorrow. GTI was almost entirely okay. I think they did specific tuning for that to specifically fix it. They didn't say that, but it just seems like it's set up differently with the way the dual clutch behaves in that versus everything else I've driven from Volkswagen Group, and even the regular torque converter automatic stuff from Volkswagen Group. But like, I have an A3 right now, and man, that's the same way with the delay. And it's the absolute worst when, like, just tonight, like, I'm in a 4-way intersection, and we're all stopped, and someone waves me on, and I'm like, okay, thanks, and I hit the gas, and I'm sitting there, and like, people are getting confused because it's seriously like 1, 2, and they're like, is he gonna go? Am I gonna go? And like 3, 4. Okay, now I'm finally going. I don't know how people like buy Volkswagen Group products and deal with it. I mean, you said you got used to it. I've noticed that sometimes if I do rolling stops, which you're not supposed to do, but if I'm not disengaging the clutch, with the car, or causing the car to disengage, obviously I don't have a manual, but if I can get the car to stay in gear, then it's fine. But if you come to a full and complete stop, it just like it. I don't know why. I really think it is just the dual clutch at this point. It's not even throttle response. It's just dual clutch is trying to figure out what to do. And I complained about this just recently in the A5, the Q5, same deal. And those also are the dual clutch now. So I think it's just the dual clutch just sucking, which is unexcusable because PDK is fantastic. Volkswagen's been doing dual clutches for 20 years now. Like, this should not be a thing. And it seems like Volkswagen owners just kind of accept it as a thing. And especially when you're talking about like your Jettas, I'm pretty sure, right, a torque converter, right? Like that's like, I don't know if that's another issue or what, but it's like everything that they do does that. And it's it's really starting to get under my skin because I've had a lot of Volkswagen Group products here. And so we'll see. I have a Golf R in like 2 weeks. We'll see if that behaves as well as the GTI did. But it sounds like the sporty stuff maybe has been fixed with that. I don't know. We'll see. But man, it really makes a strong case to just go for a Jetta GLI with a manual and have that control yourself and have no lag. Because it's like I would, if I had to drive this A3 for the rest of my life or the next 10 years or whatever, like I would just be pissed off all the time because it's just, I hate it. Anyway, let me see. Fook says, talking about Grand Highlander, sometimes I miss Omar. Wonder if he got it. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, he kept asking about Grand Highlander compared to everything for a while there last year. Yeah, I don't know where he went, but hopefully was able to figure it out and maybe get a Grand Highlander. And let me see. And so let me see. Rishi says we have one. It doesn't feel particularly slow with 7 or 8 people in it. Awesome. Well, I'm glad it feels good to you then with the hybrid. It is really nice having that electric jolt there that really, I think, helps compensate for the lack of all-out grunt, in the hybrid Grand Highlander. And Vishal says, not sure what happened to Volkswagen programming because our 2016 Passat is so much more linear and predictable with acceleration. Yeah, I know. It's really, in the past, like 2 or 3 years, I would say, where I think they really just wanted to get better fuel economy. It might have to do with the new emissions regulations in Europe or something, where they're really trying to like discourage it. It might be that them just kind of playing the emissions test, not cheating, but like playing it so that under the loads that they put the cars under for the fuel economy testing, maybe those loads are a certain threshold and it's consistent. And so maybe they say, okay, well, let's program the transmission at hypermile to this point or this throttle input. And then once you get past that throttle input, then it has to wake up and, kind of evaluate itself or something. I don't know, I have no clue. I'm just spitballing here, but I have to think that it's an attempt to try and get better fuel economy. Because if I go slow and relaxed and like really slow, like no one's around, no one to rush for or anything, like it is smooth and it's usually fine. It's just whenever again, if someone's like, oh, like someone's waving me on, I gotta, go or whatever, where it's just like that's the maddening part. So yeah, I don't know, but I know Volkswagen used to be great with all that, super responsive, no issues, and it's just been something in the past few years, I think. And Chad, thank you for the super chat. He says great MPG for 3 seconds, right? But that's the thing. Like if you can keep those revs down and have the car just upshift early and be in this like very much slow, low performance kind of setting, then I'm sure you get phenomenal fuel economy. The funny thing is, though, like I got phenomenal fuel economy in all these Volkswagen Group vehicles where I'm either hitting the EPA estimates, which is sometimes rare for me, or exceeding them, which you'll see in some of the other reviews here I have coming out again. GTI A3, like fuel economy is better than expected. So they don't need the help because I am like going way beyond that hypermiling period or whatever. And like I said, GTI didn't really have that, and GTI still got fantastic fuel economy. So I don't know if it's just some other quirk or something. I actually brought it up in front of the Audi executives on the Q5 and A5 drive, and they genuinely acted like they didn't know what I was talking about. So I don't know if they're just very convincing with, just being fully convinced that it's amazing in every way, or if they truly just are so used to it that they don't perceive what I perceive. And it wasn't just me, it was other people. And it's just bad. So yeah, I don't know, but I mean, I made them aware of it, and we'll see if anything, changes, but I know I'm not the only one that's complained about that. And let me see here. Chad says, I saw a Jag XK8 in gold. Very clean, perfect for an older person if they keep up with the maintenance. Yeah, it can be a little bit problematic for those sometimes, but those are so cool. And yeah, they're rare too. I don't really see XKs hardly ever around here, at least. And Colby says, Matt, tell us more about today's video. Are these going to be a thing? Reminds me of the old Super X fan videos. Yeah, I did do some of those old POV ones back in the day. So thanks for for remembering those and for being a fan that long. So I don't know if you just missed, I did just talk about it. If you maybe joined a little bit late here, I won't rehash all of that. But yeah, that's going to be a thing. I'm going to do it as a companion video the day after every one of my reviews. And I may not be able to do it for like the used vehicles just because those typically I film in the middle of the day. So doing a relaxing drive sometimes might be a little bit trickier in those because oftentimes I'm filming reviews, in rush hour and things like that where I can't be, relaxed with the drive. But yeah, it'll, at least for the press cars, it will certainly be a thing every single press car that I do here. And I'm glad you liked it. And yeah, like I said, I'm excited because it's a nice, easy video. To, it's a nice drive for me to just kind of a relaxing night drive. It's easy to edit. I literally just throw my watermark on it, and put a cut point there, and that's it. It's very much no editing, which I need in my life because so much of my life is consumed with editing and I hate it. So I love those videos. I hope that they continue to do well, and thank you so much for your support on that. But yeah, absolutely planning on doing that. Is just something different. The relaxing component, I think, is the thing that's something that is, like I said, lacking in that space. And so hopefully you guys enjoy a little bit of relaxation of a nice summer night drive. And Chad says, saw TFL do the Jag concept reveal. Looks are subjective, but I don't understand the rear window delete. Yeah, Polestar does that with the Polestar 4 too. And there's one or two others, I think, where there is no rear window. I don't get it either. I highly doubt that piece of glass is a huge weight savings, going to a piece of polycarbonate or whatever. It just doesn't seem like a good idea. I think for the Jag, it's more so just trying to, make a statement and just be bold and crazy. And I think for that car, it's whatever, because again, that car is going to be sold in such small numbers and be such a just statement piece more so, that I think it's going to be, fine for that. But yeah, I hope that isn't a trend that catches on though, because I think rear windows are very important to have because technology doesn't always work perfectly all the time, and it'd be nice to actually be able to see out of your back window when you need to. But General says, hey, Matt, these storms are making me want to buy something with ground clearance eventually. I like the new Land Cruiser, but do you think it can last like the old ones? Time will tell. Part of me says yes, it should, because it's Toyota and they understand that people buy their products because they expect them to last a long time. And their whole reputation is at stake if they don't deliver on that assumption and that reputation. So they take it very seriously. I mean, for example, with the Tacoma, they not only put the Tacoma engine through the regular Toyota durability testing, which is already, again, probably the toughest one in the industry, I'm assuming, but they also put it through their commercial engine testing, which is extra heavy duty, extra stress tests to withstand commercial abuse. So the Tacoma motor is a commercial grade engine in that thing. And so, I think, the Land Cruiser is, very much the same kind of thing, right? So I think there's good reason to believe that motor should last just as long. But again, time will tell, because, companies make missteps all the time and, don't live up to their expectations sometimes. So anything's possible. But if I were to bet on a new engine from a car company, I'd say I'd bet on a new engine from Toyota more than I'd bet on a new engine from most other companies. So I think that it is, a fairly safe bet. Again, only time will tell though with that engine. Obviously, there was a few little issues with, I think, the Tundra motor, early on. I think that's been resolved, and I think there was a few Tacoma motors that were fouling up, but I think, again, it was either a production line thing or something that didn't have to do with the actual engineering of the engine. So hopefully all that stuff is a non-issue here now. And it's interesting about, the more, severe storms wanting more ground clearance. I think that's part of why we see more and more rugged stuff every year. And even if it's not actually more capable, just the idea that it is, like CRV Trail Sport, which is, a very mild enhancement that really isn't, going to give you any extra capability over a regular CRV. But, I think that there's a lot of people that see this. They see flooding roads. They see, all this crazy weather. And I think that's why, if you want to bet on any trend for, the next 10, 15, 20 years, and definitely, honestly, rugged vehicles, I think that's going to get more and more appealing. I think that Ford understands this, because it sounds like they are going to, quit making Escape here relatively soon, and sometime this year, and go full in on everyone just getting a Bronco Sport instead, and just saying, okay, Bronco Sport is what people want these days. And I'm assuming next generation Bronco Sport will probably grow a little bigger to actually be a proper compact, instead of being like an extra large subcompact, which is kind of how it is right now. I think that's what you can expect for next gen Bronco Sport. And I think that it's going to, again, just them be like, hey, everyone wants to be prepared for chaotic weather, because we're going to continue to see more and more chaotic weather, and people are going to want to feel safer from that with their vehicle and being able to handle that. And so I think that's a trend that absolutely will continue to grow. And but it's very interesting that that you're proving that point. I've said this in the past weekly updates and stuff as well, but I think that is absolutely, you're not alone with that feeling. And I think that's why all these rugged vehicles are selling so well. Truck sales are going through the roof, all that stuff, for this exact reason. And Lancelot says, Ranger Splash reminds me of Baywatch. Was there one on Baywatch? I never watched Baywatch, so I'm not familiar, but Ranger Splash sounds like something they would include on a Baywatch episode. And Chad says, with all the rain, maybe you could remind people not to use their hazards while moving, and especially passing on the interstate. I just got home from work and it looked like a disco with the flashers. Yeah, I think the flasher thing, it has value if you're the first person to do it, or if you're needing to warn people of something up ahead. But yeah, if it's just like, I'm going slow because there's rain, like, you don't need to have your hazards on. Like, everyone understands why you're going slow. Like, so yeah, I get that gripe. And that's crazy that, yeah, everyone on the interstate was doing that, where you were at there. Yeah, and it's also, yeah, that's gonna be another thing is, people just gonna have to learn how to drive better in bad weather because so many people just they see rain and completely spaz, and it's something. It's not gonna get any better, I don't think, with the weather. So we need to make sure that people, I guess, just get used to it eventually. But yeah, we need to promote better driving practices whenever you are in those kinds of situations. Um, and XRO says, is moving up to the FL5 Type R worth it from the Veloster N? I love my N, but there seems to be a lot of hype and praise for the Type R. Thoughts? It really comes down to what more you want from your Veloster N, I'd say. If you want more practicality, all the boring kind of usual stuff, obviously the benefits are obvious there for Type R with, its bigger size and everything. As far as, what, again, it really comes down to, like, if you have a manual Veloster N, I'd say yes, you have a much better shifter in FL5 Type R. So if you find the manual to be lacking, then that could be something that's, maybe worth the upgrade to the Honda. If you just want a little bit more power, I think, the Honda does give you not a huge upgrade in power, but, is a little bit of a higher performing vehicle. So if that's something that, you wish you had just a little more in your Veloster and you don't want to go and modify it, I think that could be another, example of Type R. I also think Type R is a little bit more confidence inspiring with the handling. Veloster N is very tossable and it's very fun. And I think with lower limits, it's actually more fun on the street than Type R is. But if you happen to find yourself really tearing up a back road or finding the limits of Veloster N where it feels like it's holding you back, I think that Type R gives you that little bit extra to keep, pushing a little more, and the car can just handle a little bit more in the corners and in every way, really. So I think, again, it comes down to what is causing you to want more than what your Veloster N has. And if it is one of those kinds of things, then absolutely it's worth the upgrade. If it's just that everyone seems to love their Type Rs, yeah, but if you love your Veloster N, then, everyone has their own thing and likes different things. So, don't feel any pressure from anybody else. But, if there's I'm trying to think of anything else that's lacking, but I really feel like that's about it. And also the thing to keep in mind is if you do go to Type R, you are also losing some things. So, you don't get the active exhaust, for example. And I also think that the adaptive dampers are, I think, a tiny bit better maybe in FL5, but I actually found that FK8 Type R had a smoother ride in my experience than FL5. The refreshed FK8, like, magic carpet ride in comfort mode. Like, I don't know how they do it with that, with it being, the tiny little sidewalls on the tires and stuff. But like, I mean, you can watch my week with the FK8 refresh. I mean, I was like flabbergasted with how nice and smooth it was, which is kind of crazy. But so I think that the big thing for me I would miss if I was going from a Veloster N to the Type R is the exhaust, because you get nothing in Type R. If you like induction notes, great, but if you like any kind of exhaust sound, you lose that. You lose any kind of crackles and pops. Obviously, there's the aftermarket too, but I just like the active component. Maybe there's some active ones you can get in the aftermarket for Type R, but so there's again, it comes down to what you would rather have. I think personally, because Veloster N is much cheaper, I don't think that Type R, I mean, because right now, I don't know, how much you paid for your Veloster N, but I mean, they never stickered for more than what, like 33, and Type R is what, 47 now. So is it 33% more fun than Veloster N? I don't know if I think it is, honestly. It is better, but especially for me, I mean, maybe you're different, but like, I have windy roads around here, but they're all fairly low speed limits. I can't be doing 50 miles an hour around every corner. So to me, the lower limits of Veloster N are actually more enjoyable to me. Obviously, I had a blast driving, Type R for a week here, but I think because of the price difference and because of the lack of exhaust, and just the fact that I like the lower limits. I honestly think I would rather have the Veloster N if I'm spending my own money. If you got a bunch of money to burn, Type R is great. If you want to fix the exhaust thing, personally, if I'm going to go for something that's that expensive, I'm going to spend a few grand more and get Integra Type S, because then you do get a better exhaust. You also get a much better stereo, a few extra creature comforts, better looks in my opinion as well. The Type R doesn't look bad, but I think that would probably, I would just spend a few more for Integra. But yeah, so that's my whole download here. Hopefully that helps you a little bit. Let me know if you have any follow-up questions. More than happy to discuss some more with you, either here or if you want to send me a message on social media, wherever. More than happy to chat through it with you. But great question. Thanks for asking, and I hope you can decide what's right for you. And thanks for joining in, Yadvinder. And as Spicy says, is the M2 better than a dark horse? It comes down to what your definition of better is. Same kind of thing. Everyone has different goals, and everyone has a different definition of what better is. This is why I don't give blanket ratings to cars, because it's not helpful. It comes down to what you need and want and what you like. So personally, I haven't driven Dark Horse, so I can't say, but I've driven S650. I'd rather have an S650 than an M2. M2 is great, but M2 to me, it has a slightly higher seating position. I just felt that M2 wasn't quite as raw. It's a little more disconnected. I mean, it's a great car. So, I mean, I'm splitting hairs here, but it felt a little more disconnected to me than the Mustang, which is kind of surprising to hear, because it used to be the exact opposite. But they just, it's just grown. It's gotten heavier with M2. And yeah, I enjoyed it. I had fun in it, but actually when I did my M2 review, I still had the Bullet. I was happy to hop back in the Bullet for a drive. Personally, I much preferred that. Now, if muscle cars aren't your thing, or you want something that's a little more sophisticated, or whatever, I think that M2 is still a fantastic choice. I love that they offer it. I love that it still is a manual. I love that it's, by BMW standards, relatively affordable and stuff. So there's a lot of things going for it. I like Dark Horse styling better than the M2. Still a little funky in my opinion. So yeah, there's my word vomit on those two. But I think personally, I'd rather have Dark Horse, I think. And Raphael says, how does gas mileage work? My car averaged 25 mpg at first, but now 35 years later. So I guess it comes down to when you saw the 25 mpg average at first. So there's a few things at play. The first thing is, if you're talking about a brand new car, your car does break in, and over a few thousand miles, the engine actually does get more efficient as it kind of wears in and smooths out the rough edges that are microscopic. But it is typically been shown that you do get better fuel economy a few thousand miles in. And that's something actually I think even some dealers will tell people is, if you start living up to the expectations, early on when you first get the car, give it a few thousand miles, and a lot of times that does improve. Also, it just comes down to your sample there. So if you are sampling over 1,000 miles, what was that 1,000 miles like? How much of that was highway, how much of that was city, versus the next 5 years here if you're driving. If every single drive has been identical in those first 1,000 miles as it has been the next 5 years, then, that would be kind of out of the ordinary to get a 5 mpg bump. I'm assuming what's at play here is, again, the engine breaking in, and also just the fact that you've probably done more road trips, more highway drives, longer driving, and kind of just change that mix up a little bit, ever so slightly, possibly, or just because the car maybe didn't have any of those longer things early on. Now if that factors into the average later, can bring that up. So that's my best guess. Maybe there's some other context there that would help solve the mystery, but I think that's probably my best guess on why you're seeing that. But that's great to see that it's getting more fuel efficient. That's always nice to see. And Danny says, is there any used car recommendations? I don't think my parents want to lease a brand new Trax. My budget's like $10,000. Eventually, who knows, maybe a car will fall into my hands from family. So yeah, I mean, there's obviously probably hundreds of cars available under $10,000. So it just comes down to exactly what you want, what you need. I think Danny, in the past, you brought up some of like the '90s GM stuff that'd be kind of fun for you. I mean, there's lots of good stuff like that, and like I've recommended to other people in the past, especially if you need something reliable. I'd rather spend the $10,000 on a Honda or a Toyota that's 5 years older than a comparable Hyundai or Kia that might have a little bit of a more problematic engine or a rougher past. Again, anything can be reliable if you make sure that the maintenance is done properly and that it's been cared for well. It's just that unfortunately, $10,000 Hyundais and Kias are a little bit rougher typically with their maintenance records versus someone who again has nurtured their Honda or their Toyota and is expecting bought it because they wanted a reliable car and therefore is more likely to treat it well than someone that's just got a disposable car they don't care about. So, but that's kind of, I've given that advice to a lot of people in the past where they're like, well, I could get a, Chevy Cruze for, the same $10,000 as this like 1999 Accord. And I'm like, I'd rather have the 1999 Accord because, the Cruze might not have an engine that's, going to last quite as long or whatever. So there's those types of things too, I think I'd consider. But again, it also just, cars are an emotional decision. And if it makes you happy and if it's something that's going to make your day a little bit better each day you drive it, then, some reliability issues down the road might be worth it. Or some, the ability to have a newer vehicle because you want better safety or you want better technology, that might be worth the trade-off of maybe it not lasting as long or whatever. So, I mean, again, it all comes down to the individual. But typically I think that if reliability or just a car that you just gets you where you need to go, it's really hard to beat, any kind of old Honda or Toyota, in my opinion. As long as, again, it's been maintained well, make sure you have service records and have confidence that, it has actually been taken care of. Carfax has regular oil changes if it's been done at a dealer or at, a shop that, registers that with Carfax. Or again, if you buy from private owner or someone who has maintenance records, to get that peace of mind, I think that's very important, especially for reliability. Let me see. Danny says the highest MPG we saw out of our Traverse was about 23 MPG on the highway, going about 70. Not bad for a 6-year-old car with almost 42,000 miles on it. Yeah, that's not bad for a 3-row. A lot of times in these 3-row crossovers, I struggle to even break 20. So 23 is, pretty good. And Evander says, what are your thoughts on Dodge bringing back the SRT lineup? Do you think they would ruin the name or take it even further? I think SRT is most likely going to be pretty much exactly what it has been in the 2010s. It sounds like Hellcat's probably going to come back. I think the most likely thing I think is coming back for is I think it's going to be a Ram SRT. Because they're showing off the Ram NASCAR truck and all this, and there's all these Ram announcements they're saying going to be coming out in the next I think they said 14 months or I don't know, some period in the next year or two here. And so I think that's going to be the first product you'll probably see. Again, I don't know anything, but just that, to me, reading the tea leaves here, that's what it seems like is going to be the case. And that SRT, could either put the 6.4 in the 1500 if they want to play it conservatively, or again, put the Hellcat motor in. Bring back TRX, I think, is probably in the cards as well. And again, it's just going to be a cash grab for the next 4 years because they need the money. And now that there's a free for all and there's no cafe regulations, that's also going to be a double bonus for them because one, they can just do whatever they want and fall back on the old playbook that has worked for them for the past 15 years here, but it also is going to save them hundreds of millions of dollars in the cafe fines, which they were buying credits from Tesla and primarily I think just Tesla to compensate for them not meeting the emission standards for so long, and now they don't have to pay that. It's going to really hurt Tesla, so stay tuned. Again, their earnings are going to be horrific here once that goes into effect. But for Ram, it's going to be great, and for Dodge, same kind of deal. So I think we're going to see them try and quickly stuff the V8 and the Charger for the next 4 years as best they can. and just do whatever they can to just make the most amount of gas guzzler as possible. Cash in on that, get some goodwill back with their fans that are all pissed off about the past couple of years here. And so we'll see. Also, we're going to see Dodge kind of be reshaped because, like Hornet, which wasn't a very good seller to begin with, but that's built in Italy, and with all these EU tariffs, there was just a report I saw today that is looking like Hornet may actually not come for the 2026 model year. They may actually just kill it off. Maybe the alpha version will stick around because they can maybe charge a premium for it because it's a luxury kind of thing for that one, possibly. But it sounds like Hornet might even just drop out because of tariffs. So they're going to really think radically reshape because they have to. If you can't, if they're not selling Hornets now, you put 25% extra on them. I mean, you can't give them away. I mean, you're never. Dodge will just have to take that on the chin and just pay for it themselves because no one is going to pay. No one's even paying regular price for them now. So I think you're going to see some shifts like that as well. Anything that's imported, is probably either going to drop out or they're going to have to find a new place for it. I don't know what they're going to do about Charger because it's built in Canada, and it sounds like Canada and the US are in a stalemate as far as tariffs right now. So I don't know about that, but at least for the Ram stuff, that's something they can just go nuts, and I think that's going to kind of be. If you're an enthusiast that just wants to see all the gas guzzlers come back, I think Ram's going to be your home for the next few years. That'll be where they can really do the most, I think. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see again where Stellantis finds themselves after the music stops in 2029, and there actually needs to be some rules again. And let me see. Colby, thanks for the thumbs up there. And let me see. General says, Camisa was just saying on the Smoking Tire podcast that Audi has never been able to master good driving inputs, just not good with tuning, good response from engine, trans, and brakes. But man, that RS3. Yeah, see, and to me, like RS3, I don't recall it pissing me off with that. Maybe it did, and it was just so good that everything else kind of overlapped that. But S3 was mostly okay. So I think, and again, like GTI was good. So like Volkswagen Group does know how to do that when they want to, I'd say. And I also don't know about some of the other Audis. There have been, like, I know the RS models sometimes have a slight delay, but it's not nearly as bad as like the Tiguan or even like this A3 that I have here, so but yeah, he's right. And I'm glad it's not just me and it's someone else who's who very much knows what they're talking about that is thinking the same thing there about that. I mean, I'd say a lot of the other stuff on Audis is great. It's just driver inputs. Like the engines themselves are great. The transmissions themselves are fine. It's ZF8 speed in most of them. The brakes are strong. It's just that the brake pedal's up too high for my liking. The throttle is again just not responsive. The lag is just there. It's just it's a shame because I like what Audi's doing, and I like the company, but I think someone a while ago asked in another live stream, like, which cars will most benefit from the EV switchover? And I think stuff like that is what will benefit the most because, for example, I had no lag whatsoever in the Audi SQ6 e-tron that I had. Any of the electric stuff, there is no lag. And so, that's Audi is probably one of the biggest beneficiaries of, this transition. And I think that's why they should absolutely continue on with it, regardless of what policy changes happen anywhere in the world. I think the SQ6 e-tron, I mean, it was annoying in other ways, which I talked about in my review of that, but throttle response was not an issue. It was great. Obviously, it's instant. So I think, but that's the companies like that can't master inputs. I think at least throttle response instantly gets perfect the second you put an EV powertrain in it. And so I think that's why, for me, if I were ever to get an Audi product myself, it's gonna have to be an electric thing. Same thing with like Volkswagen Group, like Volkswagen ID Buzz, no lag, all joy, all happiness. Not a single thing bothered me with ID Buzz, and not just because I had a huge smile on my face the whole time driving it, but like all the inputs were great. So, if you like Volkswagen Group, I'd say go for one of their EVs because the gas stuff is just kind of a mess a little bit. And Grant Fox, thank you so much for the very generous super chat. I really appreciate that. And thanks for stopping by again. And yeah, hope you're enjoying the amazing cars you and your family have here, even with hopefully you don't have any crazy weather we're having here. But let me know also if you have any other questions or comments there. I don't see anyone attached to your super chat there, but I'll keep an eye out for anything else if there's anything else you want to say here. But thank you so much for the super chat. And you see, Vishal says, saw an article that Toyota is rumored to be working on the Land Cruiser of minivans. Any thoughts on that? I hadn't heard that, and to me, that doesn't sound like it makes sense on the surface. They have Sienna. I think there's a potential to do a more rugged version of Sienna if they wanted. The problem is just that the minivan market is far too small. So there's no way to justify a second minivan. I mean, I know Toyota loves overlap with products, but I think even that's a bridge too far to do two minivans. So I don't think that's very credible sounding. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they are. I mean, we do know that other Land Cruisers are coming. They already teased them. There's like a more street-based Land Cruiser that I think is going to kind of be almost like a Range Rover Velar kind of thing. I think Land Cruiser, they want Land Cruiser to be what Range Rover is. They want it to be, okay, we have regular Land Cruiser, we have the sporty Land Cruiser, we have the rugged one, we have the street-based one. I think that's what I think they want Land Cruiser to be Range Rover. And they can do that, but I don't even see in that scenario where a minivan fits in, and so I think you will see a smaller Land Cruiser. You will see a more street-based Land Cruiser, I'm pretty sure. But beyond those three, they haven't teased anything else yet. Again, maybe it's coming, but if the stuff they've already teased isn't even in production yet, then anything beyond those three is going to be a long ways off too. And that also, again, makes the article more questionable because then we're talking about real far out stuff that, isn't happening for another 5 years or more. So, yeah, I don't buy that, but I could be wrong. We'll see. And Vishal also says CRV Trail Sport is just a CRV with the Trail Sport branding on it and tires with a rugged sidewall. Right. That's exactly what it is. Yep. And I will say that whenever I finally get one here in the press fleet, probably sometime this fall. But Raphael says, I had a 94 Ranger Splash in purple. That's awesome. I missed that truck. It finally rusted away to nothing. That's a shame. That purple color was great, though, on those, too. I'm glad you had one. That's awesome. And Fuchs said, actually, I drive trucks, and I do put my hazards on for people to see me from all the water getting kicked back when they don't slam, so they don't slam into my back. Okay, well, that's interesting. I know for trucks, I think a lot of them, it's just also policy for them to do that. So, I mean, yeah, I guess that makes sense if you're in a very low visibility situation. In Europe, everyone just kind of has the fog lights in the back they can put on too. But since most American cars don't do that, that's something that I guess, yeah, I guess I can see a case for hazards there in that situation. So, yeah. I don't know. I guess everyone can do as they please as far as etiquette and stuff. But I mean, typically, having lights on and on your car, just having the headlights on should be enough. I guess, the hazards are a little bit brighter. So yeah, I guess that's the motivation, especially for trucks. But I know, for regular cars, most of the stuff, especially the newer stuff with LED, lights on, between that and then hitting your brakes a lot, I feel like it shouldn't be too big of an issue for regular vehicles, but who knows? I don't actively drive in a whole lot of heavy rainstorms, so I'm probably more out of the loop than people in Florida and places like that. And Confirmation says, hi, Matt. I drove the current gen BRZ with the manual as a Turo rental, and I didn't realize how enjoyable that car was in contrast to how much I hated my old VB. Nice. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed the BRZ there, and glad you got to try out the new gen. It's great, and I'm glad that you enjoy it too. And yeah, it's definitely, I don't love the VB, and I've said that many times, but BRZ, I do still really, really love it. I wish it was a little easier to be smooth with the shifting, and that's the only complaint that I have. But other than that, it's phenomenal for sure. And yeah, BRZ is great. I'd still love to own one someday if the stars aligned. no pun intended there with a Subaru badge, but but it'd be nice to be in another BRZ someday. And Fuchs is talking about heavy rain, less than 200 feet visibility, super heavy rain, and Hummer EV going 90 plus, weaving in traffic, passing everyone. I'm almost impressed looking at that building, going at that speed in the rain. I can barely see his headlights before he passed the back of my trailer. Yikes, that is terrifying because that's a 9,000 pound behemoth that is not going to stop quickly, especially in rain, and is going to do some real damage if it, man, this is why I really wish that once you get over a certain weight limit that you had to have a commercial license. Like I guess a lower limit than whatever the current limit is. Cause yeah, Hummer EV and Cybertruck and stuff like that borders on, because people just don't know how to handle 9,000 pounds. Any idiot with a pulse can get a license, and you put them in a 9,000 pound wrecking ball. It's terrifying. Oh man. So stay safe out there, Fook. And that's why I wish there was more regulations, but we certainly won't see that for the next 4 years. Anyway, Grant, also thank you so much for joining the Matt Maran Motoring Club. I really appreciate it. I hope that you enjoy all the membership perks here, like that priority answering, and also the early schedule there, the member car of the week. Definitely, you have some awesome cars, I think. So if you want to send me an email, the email address is in the description of the video there. Send me an email if you want. If you are caring to share your vehicles for member car of the week, I always try and feature anytime anyone sends in a car, their pictures of their car, and I'd love to show off the sweet stuff that you and your family have if you're open to that. So, but yeah, thanks for joining the club. Happy to have you. I also see he says, enjoy the videos, Matt. Keep them honest and down to earth. I bought a Giulia Quadrifoglio about a month ago. Congrats, and I'm enjoying it, but I'm now tempted by the IS500 V8 and Lexus reliability. Yeah, I mean, that's great too. I hope the Giulia treats you well, though. I'm kind of curious to see, how it does for you, but I'm glad you got one. Thanks for supporting the Alpha cost too, because such an underappreciated car still, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, with good maintenance, I think that car, especially these days, these later model years, should be pretty reliable. I think I wouldn't worry about it too much. But if you like switching up cars every once in a while, IS500 could be a great next step as well. But IS500 is not going to be as dynamic. It's not even a full-blown F versus the Quadrifoglio. Phenomenal handling. Alpha really knows how to do that stuff very well. I mean, I was blown away by just the Stelvio Quadrifoglio. I haven't even driven the Giulia Quadrifoglio, but Stelvio on its own already handled better than IS500, and that's an SUV. So I think, that's it. I mean, both are fantastic though. IS500 also is, I think, underappreciated and already forgotten, even though it's still on sale. And everyone that's clamoring for V8s, it's right there. It's really cheap, relatively speaking, and it's a phenomenal car. So can't go wrong either way. Great choices there. And thanks again, Grant. And let me see here. So we have just crossed over the hour mark here. So I'll be signing off here in a few minutes. Just the last few member questions here, and I'll head on out. But I'm glad we had power this whole time and we're able to weather the storm. So let me see. Zero appreciates the advice, and I'm happy. And let me know if you have any other questions. More than happy to help in the future. And glad it was helpful. And Raphael says, with everything so volatile, bring back the Camaro for 1 year so I can buy a new one. I mean, I think with stuff that's out of production, it's a little trickier. But honestly, yeah, GM totally could just bring it back. I'm not sure really why Camaro went away. I don't think it was a cafe thing, because I mean, all the EVs that GM sells, and they're doing really well selling a lot of them. I think they're in compliance, so I don't know if there's really any pressure. I don't know. I don't know why Camaro went away, honestly. Because I don't even think I don't think they're using that factory for anything else. That production capacity, I don't know, but they could bring it back. I mean, they can bring it back for 3 years, but there's always the used market, though. Raphael as well. There's some really nice examples out there. That's always the one comfort, is we always have the used market, no matter what happens with the new market. But And Theodore's asking, what do car companies do with cars they can't sell? Do they just crush them? No, typically there's a bunch of different things. There's actually a really cool video I watched not too long ago that kind of explained this. But basically, I'll try and be brief here because, again, we're over time. But basically, they discount the car as much as they can. If it is not selling new no matter what, sometimes they put it in a loaner fleet of service loaner vehicles, rack up miles on it, and then either turn it into a loaner special as a new vehicle, or they just go ahead and title it, turn it into a used vehicle, and then sell it as a used car. And that's often the case of what they do. They almost never crush new vehicles. I think there are a couple of cases where that very extremely rarely happens, but typically it's just they go into the used market and they sell for whatever they sell for, because there is always eventually a price where someone will buy in. We're seeing this right now with the leases on a bunch of stuff. I mean, Charger EVs, there's people leasing Charger EVs for $200 a month. When you tell someone, yes, this thing is maybe not exactly what you want, but you get 600 horsepower for $200 a month, and like a sub 4 seconds 0 to 60 time, like eventually you get people to bite. Jeep Wagoneer S, also really heavy incentives on those. They're a little glitchy. It seems like they've had some teething issues here early on. But people are releasing those things for $300 a month, or even some I think actually are close to that $200 a month on that too. You tell someone you get a $70,000 SUV with all the bells and whistles for $200, $300 a month, people are going to bite. So there are some cases like that where it can just get low enough and cheap enough where they do sell at some point. Now, obviously, the car company loses money, but they lose less money than they would just completely scrapping the car. I think the only way they crush stuff is if it's a brand that is looking to protect their resale values, their prestige. So you may see that from the luxury brands again, but it's super rare. Typically, again, they'll still rather just discount. But if it gets so bad that they got to sell the car for an embarrassingly cheap price, then sometimes maybe they will crush them. But I think again that's not very common at all. Ben's asking how many miles I have in the Fiat 500e now. It's up to a little over 700 miles. So still doesn't get out very much, but sounds like press cars may dry up a little bit here in the fall and may turn back into my daily driver. And I just haven't been doing very many trips either. And it's mostly an airport runner and just hasn't had any reason to go to the airport. So it continues to hibernate in the garage and just put a smile on my face seeing the fun little 500Es just sitting there waiting for me. And let me see. Triton Car Guy says generally trucks will use hazards also to warn other drivers of slowdowns since trucks are so large and tall that most people can't see around them. Yeah, that's also really helpful. I have appreciated in the past seeing an 18-wheeler have their hazards on and getting kind of an alert beforehand before I can see stuff on my own, which is great. And he says I remember doing that on multiple occasions to try and make things a little safer. Yeah, that's awesome. He says as to using hazards in bad weather, yes, some companies advise having hazards on. Nice. Thanks for the info. And let me see. So yeah, I think we have pretty much finished up here with all the questions. I see Angel's asking any funny ideas for a 2002 Toyota Corolla. It can be a fun project car or a perfect candidate for a crash derby. I mean, yeah, I think Corollas are great. Customization is always a very personal thing. So anything that would make it more fun to you, if you got the money, go for it. Obviously it's not going to ever be very fast, but I think it could be fun as far as a handling setup, beefing that up and, things like that can make it a little more fun. But if you want something fast, you're better off just selling it and getting something different. And EcoThink says, have you been with the Ioniq 9? Yes, I'll actually have a review on that coming towards the end of this month. So stay tuned for that. But I was really impressed with it. So, and YH has a super chat here right at the end. Thank you so much for a super chat, and happy to see you here, Etch. He says, so interesting that the S650 Mustang GT in track mode feels like a tank. Sometimes I drive around in it because it's so smooth and makes it different. Yeah, all the drive modes, a lot of cars these days, it really does change the feel in a lot of ways. And, especially for the vehicles that have like Magna Ride, it really, again, changes that whole feel. And with the active exhaust, there's a lot that does get switched up there. So yeah, glad you're still enjoying your Mustang there. And yeah, like Truck and Car Guy says, yeah, have a great rest of your week, everyone. I echo that. I hope you all have a great, fantastic rest of your week here. Stay safe with all these storms and everything else out there in the world. And yeah, I'll see you guys on Sunday here for the next live stream. And stay tuned for a review of GTI and another one of those POV videos on that here later this week. And yeah, definitely check out that one I just uploaded tonight on the TIG one if you haven't yet. And I'm glad so many of you have been enjoying that there. But all right, so yeah, thank you all very much for watching. I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.